Carryback. Seller gives a loan to buyer as part of a purchase. A seller owns her home free and clear and sells the home for $500,000 to a buyer. The buyer puts down $50,000 cash and the seller, quote, carries back, end quote, a loan for the remainder of the price of $450,000. The buyer proceeds to make payments to the seller on the $450,000 loan, just like the seller were a bank. The expression, quote, carry back, end quote, means a seller gives a loan to a buyer as part of a sale. The reason a seller might carry back a loan is to make money by being a lender or to make it easier for a buyer to buy her property. Seller financing is another name for a carryback. Seller financing becomes more popular when bank financing is harder to find. A carryback is a loan made by the seller to the buyer. Synonyms: seller financing, owner financing. Related words: creative financing. Compound interest. Interest paid on principal and on accumulated interest. Compounded interest is interest paid on principal and on accumulated interest. So, Mr. Deposit puts $100 in the bank at 10% compounded interest yearly. After 1 year, he has $110. After year 2, he has 10% interest on the $110. That's $11. So now he has $121. After year 3, he has 10% interest on the total, which is an additional $12.10, which is a total of $133.10. After year 4, he has an additional $13.31, which is $145.20. And so on and so forth. The interest is paid on the interest already earned, and so it is compounded. The opposite of compounded interest is simple interest. Antonyms: simple interest. Related words: exponential growth. Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD. Regulators of mobile home parks. Mobile homes or manufactured homes have very specific rules associated with their use and sales. A mobile home park is a property where 2 or more mobile home lots exist. Mobile home parks have rules which all residents are to abide by. Mobile home parks are regulated by the Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD. Synonyms: manufactured homes. Related words: mobile home parks. Operation of law. Court-forced property sale, judicial foreclosure. Operation of law is when the court takes action to enforce another's right of resale to pay off an unpaid loan or a lien on a property. It is an involuntary transfer because the court will establish a new legal title regardless of what the owner wants. Operation of law is a court action or a court-forced property sale or a foreclosure. Synonyms: judicial foreclosure. Mechanic's lien. Involuntary money encumbrance to pay unpaid supplier. A lien is the use of property to guarantee paying someone. There is a voluntary lien, which is a mortgage or trust deed, where the home is used to guarantee that the loan will be repaid. An involuntary lien is taken by right or court action to recover unpaid funds like property taxes, or, in the case of unpaid bills for work done to a property, a mechanic's lien. Say a general contractor does some work on a home or property and is not paid by the homeowner. The contractor takes out a mechanic's lien on the property, and eventually, if the bill remains unpaid, the home can be foreclosed on to pay the debt. Mechanic's liens must follow a very specific protocol. A preliminary notice must be sent to the homeowner warning that if the bill is not paid, the work qualifies for a mechanic's lien. Then, a notice of completion must be sent. Then, a foreclosure action can be sought. If workers just show up, uninvited, start work on a property, and a notice of non-responsibility is not filed and posted, the owner may have to pay for the work done. Mortgage yield. Profit on a mortgage expressed as a percent. The mortgage yield is the amount of profit a mortgage returns expressed as a percent. The profit includes the origination fee and any points charged when making the loan. Reducing the profit is the amount of interest the lender pays to borrow the money, which might be the discount rate charged by the Fed. The mortgage yield is the profit on a mortgage expressed as a percent. Workers' compensation insurance. Insurance fund to protect workers injured on the job. On-the-job injuries do happen. When they do, they can be devastating to workers, their families, and the companies which employ them. The state has taken over this risk by having companies pay a little for every hour worked into an insurance fund. When a worker is injured, he or she can draw on this insurance fund to pay for medical bills or lost income. The obvious problem to such a program is the cost of administration and the risk of fraud. Nonetheless, quote, workers' comp, end quote, is required by law. Workers' compensation insurance is a state insurance fund to protect workers injured on the job. Parole evidence rule. Signed contract cannot be changed by ongoing discussion. A signed contract doesn't mean that people just stop talking, parentheses, and writing, end parentheses. So after a contract is signed, by law, the contract is what it is. Any conversation, parentheses, or letters, end parentheses, after the signing does not change what is in the contract according to the parole evidence rule. Therefore, if and when a dispute arises over the signed contract, often the parties will bring as evidence to the dispute conversations, parentheses, or letters, end parentheses, that happened after the signing. These conversations, parentheses, or letters, end parentheses, will be excluded from the dispute by the parole evidence rule. The exception to the parole evidence rule is when the contract is vague or unclear on a debated issue. The parole evidence rule is a legal exclusion of all conversations and writings after the signing of a contract that becomes disputed. DBA. Fictitious business name. Quote, doing business as, end quote. DBA stands for doing business as, and is what a business under one name does when it does business under another name, or the paperwork filed so a person can operate as a sole proprietor with a different name for the business than their personal name. So the Gamut Group Inc. starts a furniture division called Calcraft Furniture. The Gamut Group Inc. is doing business as Calcraft Furniture. It is called a, quote, fictitious business name, end quote, even though it is not really, quote, fictitious, end quote. So, if the Gamut Group Inc. opens another division called At Play Toy Company, then the corporation is doing business as At Play Toy Company. the corporation would file a DBA statement, which is published in the local paper for 3 weeks, and then take that statement to the bank and can now accept payments in the name of At Play Toy Company. The corporation, the Gamma Group Inc., is doing business as these other company names too. A DBA is what a person files to do business as a sole proprietor under a different name than their own. John Doe wants to open a flower shop called Excellent Flowers. He files a DBA statement so that everyone knows it is John Doe doing business as Excellent Flowers. Commissioners Regulation 2780 allows disciplinary action for discrimination in housing. California's Commissioners Regulation 2780 allows disciplinary action for discrimination in housing. Discrimination on the basis of race, color, sex, religion, national origin, physical handicap, or familial status can warrant disciplinary action. The Commissioners Regulation 2780 allows disciplinary action for discrimination in housing.